Hey there, everybody, and welcome back. So, we're gonna do something a little bit different tonight. So, we're gonna talk about iRacing Rain Project, which is very interesting topic for me as a meteorologist. So, this is something different than what I usually do with my channel, and I put this PowerPoint together in like a couple hours. So, try and put all the information together and then, talk about the Rain Project and what I think about the Rain Project as a meteorologist. So, let's get into this. So, before we get started, it is important for me to tell you all that I am deaf and a cochlear implant, so I do not speak very clearly, very well. So, you have to forgive me for if I'm, misspeaking or mispronouncing things. So forgive me for that, okay? So let's get going. So before we get into this, we probably should talk about my resume. Why I'm the person that can talk about this. So I do have a BS in Atmospheric Science from UMC Asheville in 2017, and I got the graduate certificate in GIS at Interstate, and then I'm getting my master in GIS in like 2 months or so. I am a professional meteorologist at 6+ years, so I've been a weather forecaster for a long, long time. I had spent 8 years plus as a storm chaser, chasing hurricanes, tornadoes, big rain events, big snowstorms, blizzards, all kind of stuff you can think of. And I have spent 20+ years as a weather nerd. So I am 28 right now, and I've been loving weather since I was about 5. And here's a huge disclaimer: I am not an expert on physics of tracks or cars. I am not an expert on physics of a game or sim racing. So the stuff that I know very well involves the atmosphere and the weather. So that's where we're gonna talk about it. But I'm gonna touch on a little bit everything today. So let's, keep getting in. So my first thoughts about this project is I'm not surprised taking so long to code up the rain system. They're trying to do this whole new system where the atmosphere is dynamic, vertically and horizontally, and how cars react to it. How we get the rain tires, first the dry slick tires, got the working wipers, and even the radar system. It will require a overhaul of nearly everything on my racing, regarding the tire model, the dynamics track, and the dynamics weather. So let's kind of dig into this. So the rain tires, I am not an expert here, but we're going to touch on this a little bit. So the rain project will require a major change to the current tire physics. There's a lot of tire modeling work to do. It has to adjust to the change in track condition, not just the dry track, but also the wet track. And I believe it does the dry track. To change it on a dry track, okay, it can pick up the rubber and that kind of stuff, but it can be better. And even iRacing's been saying it. So they, one of their fight presidents, Tony Gardner, was posting onto the forums, on the messaging board, and he got this bit post like a couple months ago. He was displaying that iRacing had spent a lot of 2022 improving the microphysics of a tire model with embedding new tools to account for the changing track condition across different cars. They're trying to break down the tire model into smaller pieces, into the threads, the pressure, the low, the quartering low, all the little stuff. And they're trying to break down the tire model into even more little pieces. And it's important for the change in track condition and the rain. But again, I'm not an expert here, so we're gonna move on. So again, another thing I'm not super expert on, but we're gonna talk a little bit about the dynamics track because that's gonna require a change for the rain stuff. It was introduced in middle 2015, adjusted a few times for the new title model for the 7. So what they did back then, from what I understand, I was not around when this happened. From what I understand, it was about, putting the rubber, building up on the track, depending on where people are driving over, and generating the heat onto the track and could increase or decrease the grip depending on the weather. So another version of it was applied to the dirt oval racing with the tacky slit lines forming. And right now, as we talk, they're doing like a complete makeover of a dynamic track model for all Sato racing. And so dirt racing will have the dynamic track model makeover it out first, because it doesn't involve rain stuff, I believe. Like, you wouldn't put the rain system on dirt tracks, so it doesn't really make sense. It's already wet. So and then I believe the row side, iRacing's gonna get it next with the rain project, and then finally the oval. And it's been a bit sore point in the community for like maybe 3 or 4 years. Like, it was working great from 2015 to 2019, and then it doesn't work as well anymore for the oval track people. So that's worth pointing out. So there was one change they did add in December 2022. They added something called the track polish, and that the hints of things to come. The grip will reduce away from a racing line and dry condition. However, it will reduce on a racing line in a wet condition due to the track polish. So how would it interact? How would the whole thing interact with the atmosphere, the dynamic track? How would it interact? That's a big question, and that's why it's taken a while for iRacing, to fit all these little pieces together. So we got dynamic weather and sky. It was also first came out in 2015, and so before that, I believe, again, I was not around for this, but I believe it was pretty static. Not a lot changed with the weather. So, and then that changed in 2015. You got the shadow from the clouds and the sun moving around, affecting the track temperature and the grip, depending on where the shadow are. And then we got the change in air temperature related to humidity, wind speed, and wind direction during the open session. And yes, you do notice the wind. You do notice all the little things on the car speed. So they later added the dynamic the dynamic day and night, and also dynamic sky in 2018. Now you got the clouds moving, you got the sunrise, sunset, the trip lines, the night sky, and then changes back to the sunlight. And you can especially see it with the 2012 or 24-hour races now. It's really cool. It's a bit changed, and it was not that long ago they did this change, 4 or 5 years ago. It has the direct relationship with the dynamic track because of the shadow of the clouds and stuff. It's changing the track temperature. It's changing the grip. And then that's without the rain. The current system do not think about creating rain, and that's a big change that they're trying to put into. Now, I will put this. The range of a temperature could be a lot better. I don't know why it's only from 65 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit right now. 65 to 90, I don't get it. It should be like 40 to 100 or 110. It should be like greater. I can understand not touching the temperature when it comes to below 32 because of snow. But I don't understand why they're not messing with the temperature below 65 Fahrenheit right now. So that's a comment. Now, we're going to talk about weather stuff, finally. So, this is where I know a lot about weather stuff here, because I do have a college degree in it. I'm not perfect, but... So how is iRacing adding the rain? And here is what I think they're going to try to do. Again, I could be wrong, But I think they're gonna do the weather calculation across a 3D grid space where you got the vertical and horizontal points are calculated with the temperature, humidity, pressure, moisture flushes, heat flushes, and radiation flushes equation using calculus level differential equation. It takes a lot of computer power, especially around the global, which is why several of the most powerful supercomputers today are for the weather forecasting model for each vertical and horizontal point every 6 hours for 3 weeks out. And it's like we're talking about points every 12 to 20 kilometers, or I guess every 10 miles or something like that for us American, something like that. And then it could be as precise as 3 kilometers between points, and like, oh gosh, maybe 100, 200 meters every level going up into the sky vertically, and horizontally it's like every 3 to 12 kilometers. So yeah, that's a lot of data points to calculate for, and that's on calculus level. So that's why computer models is, they're very good. They're very good. But the problem is you got the little things called the charts, therapy. You got the little things like butterfly effect. You got the tiny change where the computer model was not expecting. It kind of snowballed into big changes. So that's why weather is not super accurate out to after 3 or 5 days. I wouldn't say the weather's very accurate right now. So I would just ignore all noise with the weather forecast past 5 days. And even then we struggle inside 2 days with the weather forecasting. And people love to hate on meteorologists, but the meteorologists, their job is to look at the computer model and adjust the bias and account for the local climatology. So yeah, that's what we do. We look at the data and then we make adjustment and then we present the forecast. And even then, the computer model, we are using like some of the most powerful computers in human history for weather forecasting right now. If I had to guess, like 5 of the top 25 most powerful computers are for weather forecasting. So anyway, moving on. Thankfully, they're going to do this at the hyperlocal scale to cover a much smaller space. Maybe 20 kilometer by 20 kilometer space, or 40 kilometer by 40 kilometer. I'm not sure. I don't know the details about that. And of course, that's just to create the weather above the track, and not including the relationship with the racing course or the service model or the tire model. That's not my topic to talk about. I'm not an expert on that, so let's move on. And this is what I'm talking about, the equation, the partial differential equation that computer models are taking in to calculate weather forecasts. And then it goes on every 12 hours into the future. So yeah, we have to spend a lot of restless nights solving this stuff to earn the degrees, even the TV meteorologist that you see on the air. So I'm sure iRacing will try to simplify these equations for all vertical and horizontal points in the 3D space. Again, this is for the air alone, the atmosphere alone. Alright, so now we're going to move on to a little bit something else. So we're going to talk about different types of rain. So yes, there are different types of rains, and that matters for iRacing model. So we had alright, this was an example that was given out last summer to friends. But here's what we call the HRRR computer model. And we're looking at the sounding, which is like what the atmosphere is going to look like in this vertical slight. So we're looking at the vertical line from the ground up into the air of the atmosphere. So the pressure. So the pressure about 1,000 HPA is about where the ground is and then you look up, you're going higher up into the air. So this is what the simple tropical downpour will look like in a vertical slice of an atmosphere over Florida. You can see how tight the humidity line is with the air temperature line. You know, the green line and the red line are very, very tight, and it's going way up into the atmosphere because it's a tall thunderstorm cloud going up over 60,000 feet into the air, or 18,000 meters. So that's way up in the air, and you still got the air temperature and humidity line almost at 100% saturation and almost 100% related to humidity. So very, very, very wet atmosphere going way up into the air, and it contains a huge amount of moisture. And you can see by the PWH of 2.2 inches. So that's like some kind of calculation. It will measure the amount of the moisture is all of it is squeezed out into moisture. You know, all the moisture squeezed out. You'll get like 2.2 inches of moisture, something like that. It's more complicated than that. I'm just trying to simplify things. So my point here is with this atmosphere that we're seeing here, you expect the track to be full of huge puddles with wipers working overtime. The rain will be blinding with very little visibility. Now we're going to go a little bit different example. So we're going to go to the mountain of West Virginia for short-term weather forecast for the same day. This is what the light mist and rain on a overcast day will look like in a vertical slice. You can see that the cloud layer where the humidity and temperature line are tight, and it's a lot more narrow than Florida's example. You expect the stratus clouds that with moderate rain falling in the mid-level that is drying up on approach to the surface as light mist and droplets. Also note that the predictably wet water, I know I'm saying it wrong, but PWHE is at 1.36 inches, which is telling me the moisture is a lot more drier than the Florida example. And also the surface dew point is always 64 degrees in this example, which will also support drier, less humid weather than the Florida example. It's still a little bit humid, but not tropical where the air is humid. So anything above the stratus cloud deck will be clear air. Kind of like when you're going high up on the commercial flight and the clouds are below you, that's where the air is going to be dry and clear. So the clouds layer is a lot thinner here. Like a lot thinner, like 10,000 feet or something like that, a lot thinner. So in this condition, the visibility will be greater than for example, and the dry lines are easily formed to allow for slick tires. So not all that rain is going to be falling to the ground, and we're going to see it here. So I think iRacing is close to what I'm suggesting here. My light rain example looks something like this right, the F3 at Line Rock. So cloud was condensed at the mid-level with the rain drying up and approach to the surface at Virgia. So the simulator reflected this very well, showing spotty light rain depending on where low-level dry pockets or not. And of course, enough rain covered it to get the track a little bit wet with bursts of sunlight coming through. Kind of like this. This must have been a sharp decrease related to humidity as you get closer to the surface, because it's not quite misty. So this example really impressed me, honestly. And this is what I'm talking about with the tropical downpour, like with the Florida example that I was talking about. I also said this is in Japan, so not exactly super tropical, but they can get tropical there. And this is what the heavy downpour should look like with low to non-assistant visibility. So this was one of the first work in process screenshot that we got from iRacing when they talk about the rain project in 2021. So they probably didn't model the spray by then. But by the atmosphere This is a complete downpour, 100% relative humidity across a thick column of atmospheres. So puddle was also reflecting the heavy rain too. So again, this is very impressive. In my opinion, you can clearly see the different level of rains that iRacing's trying to work with. Oh, I love this example. So you can see tiny raindrops here in Chicago. You probably can't see it as well on YouTube, but you look for the original screenshot there. You can see tiny raindrop in Chicago, but open sky and dry track otherwise. This will be an example of small light rain cell that is patchy across the region with some short lived rain that's not super wet. My guess is the track was seen on the very edge of a tiny rain cell when the screenshot was taken. Again, it's really cool to see a mixture of a small rain droplets with sunshine going through. And this is the prime condition where you can see rainbow in the opposite direction of a sun. In fact, I think it'll be freaking cool if iRacing can model the rainbow, and there's ways to do it once they get the fixed raindrop right. So another example, light missing rainfall that I was talking about with the West Virginia example. But the difference here is the mid-level cloud cover is completely overcast and thick clouds, rather than the mid-level cloud that's broken up like the Lime Rock example. So that suggests to me that the relative humidity is low enough for rain droplets to dry up near the surface, but it's still got this damp, overcast feeling to it because the relative humidity is almost 100% across the entire mid-level layer. So I think iRacing's intending to model an entire column of an atmosphere and several different levels. And it's kind of like changing emphasis between the ground, the mid-level, the upper level, and go on. So again, I think they're doing very well with this. So the last example, at Knot Hill. So this is what very heavy rain should look like with moderate PWHE when the atmosphere is completely condensed it from the surface to mid-level. So low-level rain, low level is much more wet with the relative humidity at 100% comparing to the last screenshot. So you're seeing far more puddling to match the condition too. So weather-wise. So I'm butchering the word here. Forgive me. So weather-wise, I think iRacing's on the track. I cannot speak to how it will interact with the cars or the tracks, but things are looking very promising with the new weather model. So we're going to touch on the radar stuff a little bit. So the radar is pretty promising, but are we going to see an intro window only? Are we going to get the GG7 style weather radar but in a black box? How often will the radar be loading the new images? In the real world, we're getting new stuff, the new radar data, every 3 to 5 minutes as the radar dome, cycle out the scanning. Will the radar be looping and showing all scan so we can see where the storms are moving, or the storm can be getting stronger or weaker on the radar? Can we see that information while we're racing like we did in GC7? So a lot of questions to answer. And we're going to talk about the weather forecast preview graphics as well. And this is a bit missing point for the GG7. There's a lot of GG7 fans that are complaining about this when I did the research on this. So iRacing got this going for them. And they actually just posted that today. So that's very exciting. So the Formula 122 video game also had this feature and similar to iRacing's system. So not a bad thing. So the question here is the weather forecast preview graphic something that's already fixed, or is there some unpredictability to it? Is it not gonna be like perfect? Because in weather forecasting in real world, you can probably get a good idea of rain happening between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock. But it's not a good beat because are we talking about the light rain is a small mass light rain cells broken up over the map, and at random or is it consistent light rain throughout this period? Even more questions to figure out. Like, are there gonna miss things up? Is what I'm saying. Is the forecast gonna be accurate here? Yeah, I'm not talking about them making mistake. I'm talking about the weather forecast not being accurate, and they're gonna show something else in the sim racing. So that's more questions to find out. So last thing, this is my formal request for iRacing to try and work rainbows into the rain system once it's live for official races. I think rainbows are beautiful, and we all need to see them. So rainbow do work when you have direct sunlight shining on the raindrop to the opposite side of you. Like, you have the sun behind you, and you're looking toward the raindrops. And that's how you see the rainbow. And the angle of a red light is fixed at about 42 degrees when it's reflecting off the rain. And the blue, purple lights is fixed at about 40 degrees. So I think it'll be awesome to see during the races. Overall, I'm very excited for the rain project to come. I do not think it'll be perfect. I do expect the buzz to come out. And I do think some things are not going to make sense weather-wise. But overall, I think it's a big step forward for the dynamics weather model on iRacing, the new system that's coming. So yeah, that's all I have for y'all. It's something I want to share, sharing my thoughts as a meteorologist, give my opinion on how things are looking for the rain project. And so far, things are looking promising. So iRacing, people have been saying they're going to try, fingers crossed, to release the rain system in 2023. But, iRacing sometimes over promises, and things don't come out until a year or two later. So, never say never with the 2023, but also they seem to be starting to tease about rain project more lately. They teased it at UI today, so I don't know what's going on here, but being sim racing guy and being a bit weather nerd, I'm very excited to see how the rain project's gonna look like. I think it's a very exciting time. I know a lot of people's gonna complain about trying to drive in the rain, or people saying this is something that we'll need. But then you look at, sim racing on Reddit, and a lot of people are complaining that iRacing do not have the rain system like the GG7 or the Factor 2 or the Formula 122. So yeah, iRacing's a little bit behind with the weather system. But I think this is where iRacing can take a big step forward and have the weather system that's better than other games, with all the features and the interaction between the track and the rain. Of course, things are not going to be perfect at first, but I think we're on the right track. I think we're getting very close to getting the rain to iRacing, and I think things are looking amazing. Alright, well, that's all I have for y'all. I usually do these little special contents videos because I'm still working on my master. But once I'm done with my master, in like a month or two over the summer, really, really like this kind of stuff, I can do more of this. So let me know what y'all think. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Alright, I'll catch you all later. Have a good one.